What's up guys, Sagi here and welcome to another Tech Gear Talk. Today I'm going to show you how to use the Canon M50 as part of a live streaming setup. I'm going to walk you through my exact setup and then cover some of the problems and limitations that I've seen people run into, as well as show you how I got around them. I'll put links to everything I talk about in the description, so you don't need to worry about writing down the parts or brands of what I use. And when there are budget and more professional options, I'll include both links and I'll label them for you. Okay, so let's get started. If you've watched my channel before, you've probably seen plenty of M50 videos. I covered it as a great camera for photography, for video, for vlogging, but I haven't really used it for live streaming yet. And the reason for that is that it doesn't have a clean HDMI out. And in case you're not sure why that's important, when you don't have a clean HDMI out, it means that the signal coming out of the camera is the same as what you see on the back of the camera on the LCD. So for example, if on the back of the camera you see your shutter speed, your aperture, your ISO, or the autofocus indicator, that means that if you don't have a clean HDMI out, the signal coming out of the camera includes all of those overlays. Now, if you're using a camera that does have a clean HDMI out, like the M6 Mark II, the A6400, the XT30, or even a cinema camera, you don't have to worry about it because those cameras have an option to output a signal that doesn't include any of those overlays. Now, most of the overlays on the M50 can be removed by simply clicking the info button on the back of the camera until they all go away. And this gets us almost all the way there. The only problem is the autofocus indicator. There's no way to remove it, regardless of which autofocus mode you're using, face detection, zone, or 1 point. You're always going to see it in your stream. The only true way to get rid of it in camera is to turn autofocus off and use manual focus, which does work. But I love autofocus and I want to know that I'm always in focus whether I'm moving around, and that's one of the reasons why I love Canon cameras, because I really like the dual pixel autofocus system. So I wasn't happy with going with manual focus. To resolve this issue, I started using a software called Sparco Cam, which, as I mentioned, I'll link to in the description. Now, what Sparco Cam does is it grabs the signal out of the M50 and then strips out the overlays. All I do is take a micro USB cable, connect it to my M50, and you'll see that Sparco Cam automatically picks up the feed. I can now open OBS, which is what I use, or you can open vMix or Wirecast, doesn't matter, add a video source, and select Sparco Cam as the source. And I'll show you a side-by-side of what the HDMI output looks like with the overlay versus the clean feed coming from Sparco Cam. Now I have my M50 set to video mode and I stream in 30 frames per second, so of course I use 1/60th of a second for shutter speed, and I set my ISO manually because I don't want my exposure to change during my live stream. Now going back to Sparco Cam, you can change anything from aperture, shutter speed, ISO, focus method, and even select any of the picture styles that you find in your M50. So if you have any user-defined styles, they'll be imported. I usually have CineStyle set up on my Canon cameras, but of course, that's not something that I would ever use for streaming. Another great thing about this setup is that when I'm using the USB connection with Sparco Cam, it disables the auto shut off feature of the M50. And that means that the M50 doesn't automatically turn off every 30 minutes. Another great feature is that unlike when you use the HDMI out, when you're using Sparco Cam, you don't lose the feed from the flip screen, so you could still see yourself. All right, so we have a clean feed going to our computer and our camera won't shut off, but we still have an issue with the M50 battery life. If you've seen my M50 bad battery life solved video, I'm using one of those solutions here. Since I'm in the studio, I just open the back of the M50, remove the battery, put in the coupler, open the little rubber flap on the back, and then plug the M50 to either a power bank or a USB plug. So now I can stream essentially forever and use continuous autofocus, and I'm good to go. I've had this setup running for well over an hour. I never had any issues with overheating. All right, so I want to talk about a few considerations when using Sparco Cam. All right, the first one is that it's a paid app, and I ended up buying the unlimited license with lifetime updates, even though I don't actually need it, but I wanted to be able to show it to you with different types of cameras, and I didn't want to just get it for the M50. The second consideration has to do with image quality. The main difference that I noticed when using this approach versus the HDMI out is that the image quality is slightly better when using the HDMI out. Now I'll do a split screen here from OBS so that you can see them side by side, and I'm curious if you'll be able to notice the difference after YouTube compresses the video, and also how big a difference it actually is. Let me know in the comment section which side you think the HDMI is and which side is Sparco Cam, and I'll reply with the answer. So this means that you have to make a choice. Do you want the absolute best image quality that this camera can give you when you're live streaming, or do you want continuous autofocus? For me, it depends on the situation. For the most part, when I stream, I don't really move too much in terms of focal plane, meaning front to back. I might lean over to the side and grab a product, but I usually stay pretty close to the same plane, so I'll always be in focus regardless. And this is a case where I could probably use the HDMI out right into my AJ8 capture card or a Cam Link, which is more affordable, and get the best quality. I would still connect using the micro USB because I don't want the M50 to shut off, but I think you can do this without SparkoCam. I think you can actually get it to do that with a Canon EOS utility app. So if that's something that you've ever tried, let me know in the comments section. Next, I want to talk a little bit about audio, because of course there's no audio coming from the M50 into the computer. I use the same microphone that I use for my videos, which is the Sennheiser ME66 with the K6P power module. It's a super cardioid microphone, so it's pretty directional, and I have it plugged into my second generation Focusrite Scarlett 18i8 audio interface, which is connected to my computer with a USB. That's more than what most people need, and I use it because I already own the gear, and also there are times when I need multiple inputs. If you want to record directly to the computer and bypass an audio interface, then there are a lot of options out there. I'm going to mention a few of my favorite microphone options here, but I'll go into them in more detail in a future video. So if that's something that you're interested in, hit the subscribe and notification buttons. Alright, so a few options that I recommend that you check out are the Samsung G-Track Pro USB, the Rode NT USB, the Yeti Pro, or even something more affordable like the Yeti Caster or even a Yeti Nano. If you still want an audio interface, but at a lower cost than a setup like mine, you can check out the Rode Complete Studio Kit. It includes the AI1 audio interface with the NT1 condenser mic, a shock mount, and all the cables that you need. And by the way, something that I'm always curious about is what microphones you're using, either for streaming or for your videos. I know what a lot of you are using for cameras because we talk about that a lot, but I'm super curious about your audio choices, so please share them with me. I'll make sure to include a few mic options in the description so that you can find something that works for your budget. Alright, so I really hope this video gave you a good overview of your streaming options using the Canon M50, both with and without autofocus. And I'm super curious to hear in the comment section which setup is best for you. I'm working on some more M50 tutorials and various live streaming setup videos, so if that's something that you're interested in, join the community by hitting the subscribe and notification buttons. And if this video was helpful, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up, tweeting, and sharing it. You can always find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Tech Gear Talk. You know what I always say, buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.